I'm Pranav Hari. I'm a founder who's like building his company. I'm averaging 3 to 4 billion tokens per month. You paying for AI tokens in USD is just going to increase because we don't have sovereign capacity. We completely skipped the cloud wave. China was very smart. China has Tencent, Alibaba. Both are like incredibly large hyperscaler level, at least for like say catering to the domestic market. We have none. We have like so many insanely cracked engineers sitting in the Bay Area. If you can make the deal sweet enough for them, I think some of them would be ready to come back and work for us. Someone who has the balance sheet, like the likes of Tata, Reliance, Adani, instead of just acting as a very glorified landlord and providing shells to these hyperscalers again, they should start thinking of like, say, can I become a cloud giant myself? Anything other than that is just like very glorified band-aid on a very, very leaky bucket.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. So we have Pranav Hari today. Pranav, how are you?
I am doing good. Thank you for inviting me and having me over here. I didn't realize Twitter articles could lead to such interesting opportunities.
Yeah, you will get 5 more
Fame,
views on your
Twitter.
article.
Twitter articles lead to fame and fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had like a bunch of people sort of. Most of our guests have been like, somebody who went viral on Twitter.
So you guys are like India's TVPN then?
No.
Yeah, but we are not live.
Fair enough.
Okay, so I just.
We don't have any acquisition offers either, unfortunately.
Sarvam will
Sarvam will?
give you an offer.
Will they?
give you an
Will
offer.
they? Will they?
I can put in a word.
Okay, so Pranav, before we get started, I want people to know why they should even care or who you are. Like, I think half of our audience will know who you are, but for the other half, if I were to ask, who the fuck are you?
I'm Pranav Hari. My Twitter handle is ph=7. My Twitter name is ph. It's a moniker I gave myself before my seniors at my college decided to name me something unsavory.
Pranav was basically a forward deployed consultant, whatever that means, at BCG. And he was a member of investment team at Lightspeed, I believe. And now he's sort of running his own company. And the reason we brought him to this recording is because he wrote a crazy article, which is basically India's inference needs are a ticking time bomb for our account deficit. Sounds like a mumbo jumbo, but like it does go deep into some things that we've been facing as a nation and stuff. So now with that context, Pranav, take it away. What does this article actually say?
Pretty simple, right? I think currently all your AI subscriptions has been denominated in dollars, and currently India is facing a pretty acute currency depreciation that is going on, mostly because like say the entire world runs on dollars and the country has like a forex reserve that they use as a buffer to like say prevent the rupee from collapsing. Now, as you start dealing more in dollars, your rupee goes down in value. And as a result, like there's like trickle down effects. And one of the trickle down effects, which I am sort of like say facing personally, is the fact that my AI spends are going up in rupee value because the rupee is falling down with respect to the dollar. And if it is me, I'm a founder who's like building his company. I'm averaging 3 to 4 billion tokens per month. If you extrapolate this to like say the early adopters right now, and then you put it forward for like say a year forward, this will sort of exponentially increase. Like this particular deficit in terms of you paying for AI tokens in USD is just going to increase because we don't have sovereign capacity. So the article was more like a clarion call towards like say, hey, are we thinking about setting up infrastructure for rupee denominated inference? Because we already have a account deficit problem that is sort of compounded by us buying oil and gold, and it just so happened that it was like the right timing. I was thinking about writing this just as a hey, like my token spends are increasing, and then our prime minister decided to talk about hey, like we should adopt some austerity measures in terms of don't travel outside, work from home, reduce travel, spend less oil. And then it made sense like, oh, this is all because like the macroeconomic implication of using dollars to buy for your essential goods. Now, considering that AI tokens are becoming sort of an essential input variable or a line item in your knowledge and digital work and software development. Naturally, there's a macroeconomic implication for that. The Prime Minister gave me some sort of impetus to write this because most macroeconomists know that India runs a deficit and services, IT services has typically been the savior. But with AI coming into place, that is fundamentally reshaping the margin structure. We can go deep into, like, say, what are the counter arguments and what I might have gotten wrong. But I think as I've discussed, like when the article blew up, I've been in touch with a couple of other folks who like reached out to me and said, hey, we are also facing similar problems. Our company is spending millions of dollars in tokens every month. This is just like my vicinity in Bangalore. Like I do not know how widespread this problem is across, like, say, other cities in the country. Yeah, happy to like dive deep into, like, say, what are some counter arguments that you guys think, and what are some things that I sort of thought about before writing, but still went ahead writing it because I knew that those counter arguments are not really grounded in reality. So yeah.
But I think before we do that, like I think everyone has the same question, which is actually very important these days. How much was it written by AI?
Good question. So I think the structuring was clearly. So I'll tell you my writing process is I'm building a product called Muesli. Sorry for the plugin, but I had to do it.
What does it do?
So it's a speech to text app. So what I do is I basically do like a raw thought dump through the app, just like whatever I'm like discussing with you guys, I do it with myself in the phone. When people see me normally walking down talking to my phone, they think that I'm mad. I do that. I do a thought dump, then add like a overall, like, say, almost like a helper prompt to like Claude or ChatGPT, and then basically ask it to structure the article, because I just do a unstructured thought dump process. It gives me a rough outline. Obviously, it is full of all the typical AI jargonry. It is not this. It is not economic infrastructure. It is some random. It's not this. It's not that. It gives me all that typical nonsense. I just use, like, say, the structure and then fill in through my, like, I write it after that. So it's just helpful for structuring primarily. I'd say 40%, 30 to 40% was, like, say, written with the help of AI, but everything else, I had also actually wantedly made some grammatical mistakes and certain punctuation mistakes so that people do realize that it's not AI written. So I'm mindful of that. The cover picture was entirely AI generated. So
yeah, that I can make. Okay, Pranav, so what are the implications of if we go down this route? Like, I don't understand what is current account deficit. I have a business account. Does that do you mean that? Like, what do you mean by current account deficit? What happens if we go down this route?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to how, like, say, if you were to run a country as a business and you have like a P&L that you maintain, and you also need to consider the forex implications. So an account deficit is largely in terms of, like, say, how much are you exporting versus how much are you importing. And a country as large as India, we typically import a lot of, like, say, very, very essential goods like oil, high-tech machinery, electronics. All of that is important and essential for our economy. We don't export enough. But the saving grace among our exports have been, like, say, IT services, because those exports have been typically dollar denominated. Now, what happens is, since you export in dollar, that helps us build a dollar buffer. In the case where our rupee decides to, like, say, depreciate very quickly, as it is happening right now, we can, like, say, use the forex buffer to sort of save the rupee. But the implication is that you start spending that dollar buffer into saving your rupee, then it's like a rainy day fund, right? You're not supposed to touch it unless, like, say, things go really bad. We have not gone to that extent yet, which means that we need to start, like, say, that's the entire concept of self-reliance and Atmanirbhar and all those things, right? Which is, can we reduce imports, and can we sort of build self-reliance in infrastructure? Now, with respect to this particular implication, which is, like, say, hey, OpenAI, Anthropic, and other large model providers are all giving their inference. They're heavily subsidizing it, but it's largely built in dollars, right? Regardless of, like, say, even if, like, say, you pay for your ChatGPT in rupees, at some part of the payment supply chain, either at payment providers end, or at the end of the day, it's going to get converted to dollars and it goes out of the country. There are, like, say, temporary measures, like, say, hey, OpenAI and Anthropic will set up an India entity, they'll bill you in rupees, and that can sort of temporarily hedge the massive outflow that will happen immediately if I were just playing for dollars. At the end of the day, net dollars are still outflowing out of your country. Now that is one implication, right? Like your current account deficit is directly getting impacted. The second is your margin structure is also getting affected, both in terms of SaaS and IT services company. Because maybe 2 years back, I would still consider tokens as, like, say, some sort of. I had written it as an intermediate raw material, but the more I start thinking about it, I think tokens are actually the final product. Like, model is the product now. Like, everything that you sort of put on top of it is like just salad dressing. Like the model is the salad, right? As a result, if you're not like owning the model layer, or like you're not extracting value out of the model by yourself, depending on other countries or other players who are not rupee denominated, your margin structure gets affected because your rupee is also getting affected. It's like a vicious doom loop, right? Current account deficit is directly responsible for your rupees power. You might be paying salaries in rupees. You might be paying, but you might be paying for, like, say, tokens in dollars. What do tokens typically end up doing is they start taking some chunk of the salary spends. Your salary used to be in rupees, but now your salary is actually getting converted to dollars now because you're spending way more on tokens. Regardless of how people try to, like, say, paint the picture that, oh, AI is a net positive in terms of for labor in general. In the long run, I hope so, it becomes that. But in the short term, I think every company, they're trying to, like, say, package layoffs and, like, say, labor restructuring as a direct implication of AI, because you can see it happen in real time where a single developer with a Cloud Code or a Codex is able to ship 10x faster than, like, say, a team of developers. Now, obviously, a team of developers will be able to ship, like, say, more than like an entire org. That implication is directly into your salaries, right? Your salary expense, which was in rupees, gets converted to token dollars, which means that your margin structure, which is you used to bill your clients in dollars and you used to pay your cost center in rupees, that gets completely shaken up because your cost center also becomes dollars now. Yeah, overall, like, your margin reduces, and IT services has largely been about labor and margin arbitrage, right? And if you're sort of losing the biggest alpha that you had so far through this, then, like, and also, like, say, these companies themselves are also deploying their implementation and system integrator companies. So net, I think the TLDR here is code is ephemeral, right? That is, your code can be, like, it's extremely fungible now. Like, code was not fungible a couple of years back. Like, if you had to rewrite, say, an entire like code base, that took real engineering hours, and that implied money, right? But now code is no longer, like, say, I mean, it's not going to take engineering hours. It's just going to be token spends, but the token spends are in USD now. What happens as a result is code is ephemeral, but infrastructure is forever. That is, if you own the infrastructure that is used to produce the code, right? Similar to how, like, say, IT services companies own the engineering talent to produce useful work. That is the same sort of analogy we should draw for here as well, because your GPUs effectively become like your engineers in some sense, like in a very abstracted manner. So that's why, like, in the article, I argue for, like, say, how much GPU capacity can be sort of set up, and also, like, beyond just GPU capacity, you should have a very cutting edge inference layer, because otherwise you're not going to extract the tokens out of these GPUs. Yeah, so the implications are largely like your margins are getting, like, wrecked, and your current account deficit widens, and that again has margin implication. It's basically a doom loop.
So I guess one question I had, I think something you call out is where these entities will set up Indian organizations and bill people in INR, and maybe at some point it flows back to the US in dollars and gets repatriated. But haven't we had the same with kind of the cloud companies, and India spends a lot on cloud spends as well? Like, is this like a new issue, or is that, like, has our remittance kind of model for the country basically allowed for us to make sure these companies have to keep their rupees in India and invest in India, and maybe this is overblown if they kind of only have to bill companies in India?
Fair pushback, right? Cloud in the Web 2.0 era was very similar to what I'm describing, but I think there are two very fundamental nuances here. One is tokens can grow exponentially, you can't really account for it. Like, sure, like say you might have a cloud infrastructure, can have several Kubernetes clusters, and as like say traffic spikes, you might like say non-linearly grow your how many clusters that you will sort of set up. But again, like there is a finite limit to it, whereas tokens are fundamentally, I wouldn't call them infinite, but they do have like an exponential sort of trend to it. And from 2024, like when O3 launched, I think O3 was in 2025, if I'm not wrong, which was OpenAI's first reasoning models. I think when before reasoning as a paradigm was introduced, I would have completely agreed. Like I wouldn't have written this article. This is because it would have been like say very straightforward. You ask it for a prompt, it will give you an answer, and that answer could be like say sort of like it'll be generated on the fly. It won't think, it won't try to verify, it won't try to reason, right? But now that is no longer the case. Like those models actively do that, and also like for the model companies, it's in their sort of it's their imperative to like say build trust among their end users. Now, common sort of refrain against AI or AI models is that it hallucinates and it's not very trustworthy. The code is like say spaghetti code, it's not great, right? So what are these model companies doing? They are making it go through several reasoning and verifying loops, which are all like token producing actions at the end of the day, right? Which means that like you might ask it to like just do a git commit, right? I mean, sure, like it's not the greatest of examples, but in order for it to like say verify whether it has done or not, it'll check whether the commit is published. All of that becomes like say verifying and like say raising token spends, which were not happening a couple of years back. So which means that like inherently, as you compound more tasks and workflows behind these models, the token spends are just naturally expected to increase. So which means that unlike cloud could typically be sort of thought as like almost like a fixed cost center. Sure, like there is some operating cost leverage part of cloud when like say traffic spikes or you're doing several workloads, and that is typically like I would still not put it in a B2B context, it's more B2C type context, right? But in the case of tokens, like say it's some workflow that the model has not seen before, which means that it'll run for a long time. Like I have like say 3 sort of sessions running as we speak, and they've been running for the past 1 hour, right? These models are by nature are optimized towards long horizon tasks, and long horizon means will produce more tokens, which means that there is an inherent non-linear nature to it. So you can't really say, hey, this is like cloud. AWS does like say $2 to $3 billion in India. GCP does 1, Azure does 1.5, whatever. This is like roughly the order, and like token spends will also be similar to that. Not necessary. It has a non-linear nature to it. It'll be actually 10x or 100x more than that. We don't know yet. That is the first part. The second part is, unlike like say infrastructure, which is like you have like a Kubernetes cluster or like say you have database, these are not unit of work themselves. Tokens are a unit of work. Like when I do something, the token spends directly translates to the work that I do. That is what I think a lot of people, at least in the IT services world, have not sort of realized. That is, Gen AI is not a tool. Gen AI is the work now. Like, or agentic AI is the work now. Right? Now you're trying to compete with the work output of a human versus an agent which can spawn several thousand sub agents and get it done quicker, but it'll obviously spend a lot of tokens. Right? In the Web 2.0 era, when like say cloud companies were setting up, they were providing you tools. They were not the work in itself. In fact, they were providing you tools for you to do more work. But what happens when a company is saying, I can do your work? That's a different argument altogether.
What do you think about like open source models getting better, and then theoretically we can then be able to sort of host them with us? Like I don't know if you remember, but we had a chat about open code a while back. In their subscription, I think they sort of provide you with Kimi K 2.5 or 2.6 now. Yep. I guess it's like an open source, very good. Like it's good enough model for coding. Like obviously it's not cloud code, but like it's not, I mean, you can still get by with it, and then it's open source, you can host it yourself.
I would argue Kimi K 2.6, DeepSeek V4 are like Opus 4.5 or even like Sonnet 4.6 level. They're like, the gap is like a couple of months, like 8 months. It's just like open source models have like dramatically become better. Obviously the reasons why they've become better are a bit both controversial as well as like say it par for course, right? The controversial part is that like Chinese labs are distilling these American frontier models, but both GPT and Mythos or like Opus 4.7 are like several trillion parameter models, right? Which means that like every parameter tries to encompass a lot of world knowledge into it. What the Chinese models are doing through via distillation is that they're trying to distill the intelligence, which means that I do not need all the world knowledge that is required, because for coding, if I'm doing a coding task, I don't need to know when the Magna Carta Charter was written. Like, just giving an example, right? They focus more on the intelligence part, which is like, can it do reliably tool calling? Can it compact better? And all those like sort of more meta sort of features, right? And as a result, these are actually genuinely cost-effective solutions for, let's say, your token spends. And the only fixed cost is the GPU hours you're getting built. India should be like, say, all over open source models, all over the state of the art open source models. We should not be like, say, hung over with the ones which were released like, say, 6 months back, 7 months back. These models are getting released almost like on a fortnightly basis. The reason why there's also rapid iteration for these models is that these are not brand new pre-trains like how the American frontier models are getting trained. They're post-trained, which is you have a Kimi K2.5. There are a couple of different areas where like these models are not doing well. They create an RL environment for it, post-train it, release K2.6. Right? That is usually like the sort of recipe book for, like, say, creating subsequent models. Yeah, I mean, like, we should update as soon as, like, say, the Chinese labs put out their models, and also as almost like a hedge against just relying on their models, we should also start post training. Like, there's no reason why a Zomato, Meesho, or an urban company, which are all publicly listed now, they have money to spend. If they weren't spending on Insta help, that is a different issue. But they should be actively spending their capex towards, like, say, post training this model for their own workflows.
The domestic quick home services market is much larger opportunity.
Okay, that's a different discussion altogether. But do you really think that they should do this in-house?
For specific workflows, right? That is...
if they don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, unless they want to contract people who know how to do it, they can obviously reach out. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is post-training is how now, like, say, models get new capabilities, or like, say, you sort of even out or improve like capabilities in certain areas where they naturally are not great. Obviously, even for post-training, you need GPUs. That's a different, again, like, you, at the end of the day, you need GPUs, right? Like, that's a no-brainer. If you're going to rent out GPUs, then you will be renting out intelligence.
You're saying that take the Chinese model and then fine-tune that for your own specific need. Is that what you're saying? Or you're saying distill the model from one of the...
Actually, yeah, don't need to distill it to the level, like, say, you're trying to create your own Kimi K2.7 or something like that. Like, not what Cursor is trying to do, for example, with Composer, right? In order for us to do that, we need to have like a captive customer base that needs these kinds of capabilities. What I'm proposing is more about, like, say, post-training for specific workflows. So I think there's a fundamental difference between fine-tuning and post-training, which is fine-tuning. What it does is it directs the model's capabilities towards just one singular task, and it loses the generalizability of the model. Whereas post-training still gives you that sort of, okay, this particular environment or like this particular task you're not doing well, I'll increase your performance there, at the same time retain the generalizability. So that, like, so your model can be used for other workflows as well. It's not like I'm only going to use it for customer support. I think there's a nuance there. I think in the wave of 2024, 2023, there were a lot of specific fine-tuning model companies that are set up, but they were, I would argue, they were like anti-bitter lesson, which is, bitter lesson is you throw a lot of compute, make sure, like, say, compute and algorithms take care of, like, say, specific workflows, because it will generalize to such an extent that your specific workflows also get sort of accommodated in that. Post-training has that fundamental inherent capability, which is it will still sort of orient your model towards a workflow, but will not lose generalizability. So
yeah, makes sense. But don't you think like providing inference is like a cost race to the bottom eventually? Will these companies also make money?
They make a lot of money. I don't know what the margin structure is.
So the funny thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize that inference is actually a money spinner, if you think about it, especially if you deploy it on the latest fleet of GPUs. And that is NVIDIA's sort of playbook as well, right? They want you to buy the latest GPUs, even though like they might be expensive on an overall basis, but at a cost of serving tokens basis, it is still like it becomes cheaper, right? Inference is actually, if you think about it, minimum 60 to 70% margins for even the model providers. Model providers lose money on subscriptions, they don't lose money on API billing. So there are two things, right? Like one is you have 60-70 margins, so they need to recoup their pre-training costs somehow through this. But it is just not enough because there's this, I'm blanking on that particular paradox name, but it's basically the market will always reward the highest margin for the most frontier model, right? Which means that they need to keep doing brand new pre-trains or some post-training, right? So as a result, that will incur costs as well. So which means that just inference alone will not sort of get their sort of input cost back. That is the reason why they're trying to do these deployment sort of shops, because the common adage is that like for SAP and Oracle or Salesforce is that like you sell the software, you earn $1, but you sell the implementation, you earn $4 to $5, right? That particular spread is where this is my hypothesis that like these model companies want to make their margins because they need to somehow like see at some point someone has to pay for all their pre-training, their $1 billion, $10 billion pre-training runs, right? And deployment is a very good way to like sort of, and that's like it does great vendor lock-in. So like relation to our previous conversation about IT services margin structure getting affected, their market share is also now getting affected. Common sort of perception is that IT services have all the GTM contacts, so they will be the best position to like deploy AI. But you have like both Anthropic and OpenAI spending $10 billion, I don't know, roughly around that range, building companies or acquiring companies from scratch and doing deployment companies on their own. Because to an end customer, if I go and say, hey, I built the model, I know how well to deploy it, or would you trust the TCS, Infosys, Wipro saying, oh, you've been with me for the last 20 years, I know you will deploy AI well for me. That pitch doesn't like really sort of translate directly. There might be some certain nuances, like say, for example, you're doing some migration projects that does not require AI. Sure, your TCS, Infosys will still keep winning those projects. But for like rapid AI transformation or like say injecting AI agents, workflows into your like operating system or structure, these deployment companies will start eating their lunch.
You're like overall bearish on the fact that even the implementation will also be sort of eaten up by these.
If you're not owning the inference or the model layer, because like you need to know how to harness the model, right? Now, if you're like the one providing inference for your own consumption as well, you will know how well to like say, like the word harness is like very self-explanatory. Like you're trying to harness the power of these models. It is typically like say if like you've built the car, you'll know how well to like say drive it. I think that's like sort of like the analogy. It might work in some cases, might not work, but for the most part, this is like a brand new technology that we have not had comparisons in the past. So as a result, you would be more inclined to trust the person who's like sort of as vertically integrated as possible.
So the way I was thinking was, my first argument that came to my mind was basically like if I am let's say a manufacturer of garments and I import my cotton from let's say US and I import it for let's say XYZ dollars and then I make the garment and then I export it back to US. Eventually I'm making money on that spread, like on that services spread. Now remove the cotton, make it token, and then the garment is your implementation, right? And my thoughts basically were like, okay, yes, your cogs might have gone up or whatever, but like the value of the implementation that you're doing has also gone up. Plus, at the end of the day, except for the implementation part, if there's like a running inference required, like running an agent, the company will eventually plug in their own API key rather than Infosys saying, hey guys, I'll take care of the API key. And if Infosys does say that I'll take care of the API key, they'll have their own margins over there.
This is the assumption that the token is just a raw material.
Yeah, which you're saying it's not, which...
Yeah,
okay.
The token is the work itself.
Because
then you re-export.
I think this argument stands if you're still only selling software. Like if your end finished product is a software which had input basis raw tokens as raw material. Like for example, what I'm doing with Muesli, I can charge a premium because I'm just selling software. But for most like say services company, you sell work because that's what you're expected to do. You're not just selling, like if you're selling software, then like you're a SaaS company, but you're not. Services companies are not software companies for that exact reason. In that case, like your token is the work. If the token is doing bulk of the work, why am I giving you larger margins than the token provider?
Makes
So then,
sense.
what is it going to take for India to build its own inference
Yeah, Mr.
platform?
Pranav Hari.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think,
is this like a how much capital are we going to need?
yeah, it's
What
going to
is
require a
our
lot of capital. I'm
yeah,
not
what
going
are
to.
constraints? Like, how many GPUs do we need? Is it even
Yeah,
possible?
so I think the rough math is, as far as I know, is $10 billion gets you about 500 megawatts of GPU capacity. India roughly has in the lower 3 to 4 gigawatts of data center capacity. This is stated capacity. I don't know how much has gone live or how much is actually in production, right? Fundamentally, there also we have a disadvantage because the GPUs that we are going to import will also be dollar denominated, but it will be a one-time cost. So it's up to us to like say, like now, I think if you're a tech company, then you should start worrying about. There's a popular fundamental metric called ROCE, which is like return on capital expenditure, right? I think similar to that, I think we'll have to think about our return on compute expenses, like how much you are investing on GPUs, how much well can you utilize it, can you have like the best utilization, and I don't expect like say anyone who starts setting up inference will like say break even in 1 or 2 years. That's not probably going to happen. But it's a better long term play. It's as like I think a lot of popular what do you call the flavor of the town in Indian startup and VC ecosystem is deep tech, right? I think like getting GPUs on ground and setting infrastructure is actually deep tech. It's insanely high engineering, high value tasks, right? Why is suddenly deep tech the flavor of the town? Is because we have ultimately realized that, like, say, whatever we've been building our country on is just like arbitrage. We should start building in-house capabilities. I would argue the same for, like, say, inference and in fact cloud as well. Like, we completely skipped the cloud wave. China was very smart. China has Tencent, Alibaba. Both are like incredibly large hyperscaler level, at least for like say catering to the domestic market in China. Right? We have none, not, like we have some, but they are no way equivalent to any of the big three, right? So yes, I think the argument here is like someone who has the balance sheet, like the likes of Tata, Reliance, Adani, instead of just acting as a very glorified landlord and providing shells to these hyperscalers again, they should start thinking of like say, can I become a cloud giant myself? I think for this to happen, there are two fundamental bottlenecks. One is talent. We have not done this in the past, so as a result, we do not have like say the necessary resources, quote unquote, to like say set it up from scratch. And obviously capital availability and like our cost of capital, our cost of debt in India is like very high. As a result, this is not directly doable, right? Some of them require policy interventions from the government. I mean, this is again like my personal opinion. I don't believe in the concept of sovereign debt if you have a kick-ass or a world-class military. I'm of the camp that India should just borrow as much as possible and set this up because you know about the US government's debt, right? It's several trillion dollars. Uh, I mean, sure, Japan can come and knock it and ask for repayment, but they're not going to do it anytime soon, right? Similarly, like we are that big of a country and we can also do something like that. We can, if we don't have necessary balance sheet to like say invest, we can borrow or ask some sort of like say consortium to like say invest into this. The second thing is like similar to what the US did during the atomic bomb Project Manhattan, where they did Operation Paperclip, right? Which is they got all the brightest scientists from Germany, sort of like gave them citizenships and brought them back to make them work on the atomic bomb. Sure, like Jensen Huang hates the fact that we equate GPUs to atomic bombs, but I think this is as important. Like we have Mag 7 are spending 700 billion on GPU and capex infrastructure. It has surpassed the project, like it surpassed Apollo and Project Manhattan, right? Which means that we need to like treat this as seriously. I mean, we have like so many insanely cracked engineers sitting in the Bay Area. If you can make the deal sweet enough for them, I think some of them would be ready to come back and work for us.
But I mean, okay, I'll push back on that. Is that actually possible? Like, why would someone who is working at the top of their field in America at the cutting edge
It's irrational. I don't have a rational
yeah,
argument. Like I can't make it
No. I'll tell you. It's not everyone is not motivated by the same things. Like there are some people who want to sort of get like rich and famous and like rich. Okay, I mean they can get rich in US as well, but like they let's say want to get famous for their own motherland and stuff like that. I mean it's like why did
It's a
Mahatma
very
Gandhi
irrational
come back
drive.
to India from South Africa? It's like this. Like you have your own motivations. I mean 95% of the people won't take that deal, but like there are 5% who can be crucial. That is the point, I guess.
And I think role model effect really works, right? I think Vinod Khosla has talked about it, which is you need in an ecosystem some successful role model for you to sort of
Yep.
develop that ecosystem. Now, I would argue that should not be happy with just one server. We should have like 5 servers. Because unless you have like a proliferation of model building capability labs, you will not exercise that muscle, and no ecosystem flourishes under a monopoly. There is a reason why, like say, Anthropic came out of OpenAI, right? And now, as a result, like so many other neo labs have come out, and naturally, competition begets more. What do you call excellence, and you start competing, and like it's the natural capitalistic way of sort of doing thing, right? Yeah, I think we should not be happy that we have one server. We should have 10 servers,
Yeah.
and the ecosystem should be easy enough for like say someone to like start another server.
But what do you think about 10 Krutrims?
I shall refrain from speaking about that. I mean, but like to what it's worth, I
Okay.
think Krutrim
I
has
think
done the interesting pivot of becoming an inference player
Correct.
themselves.
That's what I
I,
was.
I don't I don't know how well they are doing or how good they are, but if you have
At least
compute, they're
directionally,
not
they are correct.
correct. Exactly, they're directionally correct. Yes.
I honestly would bet that Truthim's probably gonna make more money and more revenue than Servam in the next
Wow,
I,
that's your
I mean,
that's your.
several years.
I mean, it's great for the ecosystem overall. I'm looking
Yeah.
at it as more of a positive sum sort of play.
Yeah.
If Krutrim can like really implement like say cutting edge uptime for their inference, and like I would love to pay via UPI for my credits. Why can't I do that? Like a tweet of
Because
mine
UPI
yesterday went
limits.
viral because I was recharging my fireworks credits, and then that's when I realized $50 is now like $1 is 100 rupees on strike.
On strike.
Right? And yeah, I mean, I would love to pay UPI for it. Why am I paying in dollars?
So with Ghost Card would go so hard in 2026.
So for context, Anmol ran a very small three friends के लिए service, which the service was basically he had his own. He made some fintech API. He used some fintech API to sort of create a card for me,
Okay.
and I would pay him via UPI, and he would recharge that card for me, and then I can pay for whatever I want in the dollar.
I would love to be part of this group, please.
Yeah,
No, my
he closed
my
it down.
card my bank got shut down
Oh,
because
shit.
I was using APIs that I was not supposed to be using for essentially a Hawala system. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
before it got too big, they shut it off.
Thankfully, it was like $20 a month kind of deal. But
Man, RBI hates innovation.
yeah, kind of.
Like talking about RBI, like do you think we're also if we don't implement if we don't see Indian companies' inference costs go towards Indian providers, are we gonna see a liberalized token scheme and anything that actually limits Indians companies' ability to pay for software spend or tokens from the US?
I hope people at the RBI are listening to this and like implements it tomorrow. It's a great idea. Like, I mean, are your token spends tax exempt? Something like that. Like, can it be reduced GST? Whatever you can do, because like you need to be competitive. Like, or I for some reason fear the opposite might happen, where they might add additional cess because you're using foreign tokens. You never know how it'll go, but I think all of this is again temporary unless you start hosting these models in-house in India. And I think the reason why my article, like, it is a little self-referential, but I think as opposed to like the common chest beating sort of cry for like say, oh, sovereign inference is important because we need to protect India's whatever technology within the country. I think nothing is a better motivator than like say cost and money. The moment you bring that into the calculus, I think a lot of people will start falling in line, and I think it has to happen sooner than I would. Yeah.
I saw Shredhar Vembu replying to you.
Yeah.
I think he basically said something on the tune of like, stay tuned, we need to have AI inference in India,
See,
blah, blah, blah.
my only concern is that Indians should not think of this as, oh, I will stop spending tokens and that's how I'm going to solve it. That's a very zero sum, close-minded way of solving this issue. Like, you will have to think in abundance, which is, can I produce infinite amount of tokens and not care about it? And because that is the world we are sort of heading towards. If you try thinking that, okay, I will implement some agentic harness that consumes lesser amount of tokens, sure, that's going to be a stopgap, but that's not the final solution.
Makes sense. I mean, it's the same thing, to be honest. Like, the country is hardwired to be scarcity mindset, and for good
Yeah.
reason. But for example, why is the prime minister asking us to not buy gold rather than allowing companies to sort of go on exploration and see whether we also have a bunch of gold? Like, I read somewhere, or I was seeing some video maybe somewhere, which was basically like China had a similar issue, and what they ended up doing was they're like, okay, we'll do bunch of explorations, and then they found gold, and like basically they were, with that gold they were able to sort of feed the domestic whatever
Yeah, I
demand.
mean, absolutely. If you can find resources or wherever you can, like, sort of like say import substitute, we should be thinking about it because every other country is thinking about that. There should be like, what do you call, like, say a unified will from, like, say, our corporate elites to sort of think about this with, like, say, increased urgency. I'm glad, like, say, for example, Mr. Wembo has thought about it. Zoho spending millions of dollars in token spends. He's like publicly claimed that, right? So unless you face the pain yourself, I think it's not gonna, like, you're not gonna act on it. The reason I wrote this article is because I was facing that pain, and yeah, I mean, I hope everyone gets a painful, what do you call, time in their life for them to, like, wake up. So, yeah, it's that Jensen. I like to quote Jensen a lot. He said this, right. He said, "I hope disappointment and, like, sort of pain comes into your life so that you can, like, wake up and start working towards something better."
Yeah,
And
Rockstar was the one who quoted it first, but okay.
fair.
Do you think there's like I feel like the short term fix here right now for at least folks like yourself or companies is when you raise capital, you'll just raise capital in the US and to try to circumvent and avoid this problem. And that just kind of creates a larger issue going forward. Do you think there's like any things that stop this doom loop, or like we just need like government DPA kind of thing to be like all tokens must go through us? And
I don't see any short-term fix that does not involve you walking up to AMD or Nvidia placing a purchase order, right? Anything other than that is just like very glorified band-aid on a very, very leaky bucket. But this is like wishful thinking, right? Like, you somehow someone discovers some way to, like, say, repurpose existing A100s or, like, say, our HPC. We have a decent HPC network in India. It's not as good as US or China, but, like, we have a decent HPC network across different IITs, ISCs. Can you, like, say, sort of share their, like, pool their resources, compute, and offer inference on top of that? These HPCs run on Tesla or P100 sort of chips. These are, like, very old NVIDIA chips. Again, these are, like, very, very temporary measures. The dark horse here is AMD gets back into the race. Like, their Instinct processor becomes competent enough to NVIDIA. And as a result, like, say, NVIDIA GPUs are no longer that expensive for you to buy. So competition really helps. Custom ASICs, some of these companies which are, like, sort of, there's one company in India called Agrani, which is building their own chip. If they tape out quicker and they start producing ASICs for Indian cloud providers, that's a great, but I mean, I don't see this situation improving in the next 6 months for sure, or at least for the year. It's just the nature of this space.
Did you see that we signed like a MOU with ASML?
ASML. Yeah, I mean, so that's on an older node. I think it's a great step in the right, like, directionally correct, right? We're going the directionally correct space. But, like, GPUs inherently are more cutting edge nodes. They're like sub 7 nanometer. Which means what they've signed might not have a direct implication, but maybe 20 years down the line, Tata Electronics starts manufacturing older versions of NVIDIA GPUs. So that'll happen. but we are facing issues currently because that's why it's called a current account deficit. It's not a future account.
Also, do you think your post is what spurred the recent Nvidia Simply Smart news?
I
I
don't
don't
know,
know
man. I mean,
if
if I hope. I mean, I'm sure, like say, venture rounds get done pretty early on. It's not because I wrote an article,
hey, you
but I'm
never
I'm
know.
sure, like say, I think would have helped. And kudos to Simply Smart.
Yeah.
They were very very early on this game. But what I would expect, like I also heard the news, but I would expect the round size to be bigger because I think whatever I heard will not even fetch them a megawatt of compute.
But tell me one thing. You're saying, yeah, every few months they are buying new GPUs. The labs, the research labs have to buy new GPUs because Nvidia is sort of improving their GPUs. So then that's not
No,
like
no, no.
one time
Not,
investment,
not
right?
really. No, no, no. That's not
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
So they don't buy like new. Like in fact, like to produce a new generation of GPU takes like 1.5 years. Like Vera Rubin, which is like the newly announced Nvidia class of GPUs, won't go into production like full-fledged production until like say 2027. Now, if you guys think that like we have hit AGI levels of like say model capabilities, wait and watch in 2027. Like it's only going to get like bizarre because like scaling laws, unlike whatever Ilya said, scaling laws still work. The more compute you throw at these models, they're insatiable for like say compute. They'll take more compute, they'll take more data, they'll take more environments, they'll do more post training. Models only going to get better than this. Whatever you're seeing is the worst possible model that you can work with. These guys plan their compute training runs also basis that. For example, the GPT 5.5 Mythos have all been like say sort of trained on. I think GPT 5.5 is like a Blackwell designed pre-training model, right? Mythos has been trained on 3 different generations of models. Sorry, GPUs. Even though like Nvidia has like a release cadence of a year and a half of new models, like even like say the year 1 - 1 model is also very very capable. So the Blackwells, which is currently widely under production, is extremely capable model. And if you deploy Blackwell now, and if you're only using it for inference, and I think we forgot to cover this. I think a lot of people keep cribbing about depreciation cycle. These GPUs depreciate like in 3 years. So every time these companies when they invest, they'll have to keep buying in every 3 years. It is not entirely true. It is true if you're a model training company. That is, you're doing a lot of pre-training run. Pre-training is what pushes these GPUs to their fullest sort of capability, right? If you're doing inference, sure, it's still not like say, I mean, it's definitely not a pre-training run, but your useful life extends beyond 3 years. It can go up to 6 years. Some of these, like from the companies of the likes of CoreWeave, in their like say sort of both a mix of actual engineering and financial engineering, they have extended the useful life up to 8 years in some cases. I mean, one could be like say because they want to increase their earnings per share, but for the most part, these like the newer generation model, the GPUs are also more more resilient, and they have a larger useful life. Because if I were Jensen and I was selling a GPU that goes bust in 2 years, I mean, come on, like no one would want to buy from him anymore. Right? And like there are other ASICs that are coming online as well. I don't buy the entire depreciation cycle. Maybe it was like, in fact, like Hopper prices have doubled in the last 2 years, in the last 1 year at least, which means that like something that you invested in 2021 is actually earning more money than you thought it would earn when you bought. That never happens in the world of hardware, only in GPUs. And that was also a special situation because we are in like extreme shortage scenario.
Yeah. So buy Micron.
No,
Buy GPUs
no,
of all
this
I
is
can
not
say.
financial advice. Don't hold us accountable if you make money or lose money.
Yeah. You can hold Pranav accountable, I guess. That's fine.
I just want to disclaim that I'm not telling any financial advice.
Okay,
I've already talked shit about RBI. I don't want to get into SEBI and SEC as well.
Okay. So yeah, Muesli. What is Muesli? What are you working on?
So Muesli came from a sort of a weird, spiteful sort of origin. I got kicked out of my granola workspace, and Whisper Flow was, yeah, probably a story for another time.
No,
But
right now.
and I
Tell
was
me what's up. What
no,
happened?
but I was on like some premium plan, and I think they started downgrading their premium plans, and this happened after they raised their $1 billion round, which was I felt I felt insulted. So I was like, okay. And I had only 15 days to like sort of take a backup of my meeting notes. And across the industry, a lot of people were facing this issue. And around the same time, my whisper flow was also like giving me a lot of issues. That is also like directly sort of correlated with the fact that there's a GPU shortage happening because they host all their speech to text models on the cloud. So I was like, okay, transcription is also fundamentally speech to text. And I've been meaning to play around with these local models for some time. So I thought like, why don't I like just like combine all these three things together? And that's how Muesli was born. Thankfully, like it's gotten like decent traction. Like if I check my hourly users, like there are like some 60, 70 users right now using it. Although like my entire users shift has gone towards the US and GitHub is sort of aiding it in terms of discovery. Very, very interesting set of people have like sort of starred or like say contributed to the projects. Engineers from Uber, Matt Mullenweg from WordPress start this repo. So unexpected, but yeah, interesting times.
Is it like Whisperflow or is it like Granola?
It's both, because the fundamental concept here is speech to text, right? Like you take audio tokens, convert it to text tokens. Local models have become extremely capable of doing it. Like in fact, I was supposed to sort of record this meeting, but I decided against recording it on Muesli. But
It's okay, we are recording it.
yeah. So it's both. Like it does both your dictation and it takes care of your meeting. So why have two apps when you can have one? It's like the very simplistic.
And it's like, how do you, like, what kind of, like, do you charge for it or is it free?
No, it's completely free, open source.
So then how do you pay for the tokens?
I'm also on the subsidy scheme, brother. It's all like subsidized in the sense I pay $20 to $100 per month for any of these subscription plans, and I use close to $2,000, $3,000 worth of tokens.
No, but where is your speech to text hosted?
No,
It's local. It's a local model. So it's so NVIDIA, Cohere, OpenAI also have all these like say local models, and so currently it's like Mac OS limited. I've just started work on the iOS app. Basically, it uses your Apple Neural Engine. It's a fixed matrix multiplier accelerator. They launched it without thinking of any of these things. They wanted to do OCR and very simple speech recognition, but that hardware is extremely capable. Yeah, I thought like I'll leverage that, and in fact it's like easily 5 to 10 times faster than Whisperflow.
It uses Metal basically, the Apple's Metal.
Yes, Metal shaders in terms. No, actually no. It uses Apple Neural Engine. Metal is for their GPU part, right? Core ML is for their Neural Engine, which is like a separate chip altogether.
Oh, okay.
And that started from the M series of Apple.
So it works M and above basically.
Yes.
So cool, bro. You're saying it has 60, 70 users.
Hourly users. Hourly active
users.
users.
Hourly users, yeah. So wait,
And it spikes.
Who tracks HAU? Come on.
Dude, in the AI world.
In the AI world, when you're doing recurring revenue on a daily basis, come on, I can do hourly active users as well.
So do you like take hourly active users, multiply the number of hours in the year and
I should be doing that.
Is that your annually recurring users?
No. I'm so to be very honest, this is more like a sort of a passion project. Like I just wanted to, like I've been a management consultant at BCG and I was an investment associate at Lightspeed. I've not been an engineer. The last time I actively coded production level code was during my internship, and like I thought like this is the right time to get back into. I wanted to be self-reliant myself. Like self-reliance has to start at like the most closest level. So like why can't I be self-reliant?
How did you build it? Did you use Cloud Code?
It is a mixture of Cloud Code, Codex, like wherever the rate limits were available.
Cheapest model available.
Not cheapest. No, I would not skimp out on what do you call. But for example, like all of my testing happens on Kimi K2.6 and DeepSeek vFlow. And any like immediate, like say someone raises an issue, I have a custom Devin sort of setup that I've created for my own repo, where I tag it and I say, hey, like, can you create like a first pass draft of this particular issue? And that uses DeepSeek V4 Pro. And like currently my repo has like some 15 issues. I've like squashed close to 30-40 issues. I have not incurred more than like say $15-$20 on that net cumulative, because DeepSeek V4 Pro is a genuinely good model. I wish, like, say, inference speeds were higher, but that's a different issue.
Like, is this the thing that is taking all your time, or are you doing something else?
It is sort of taking my time. I didn't plan for it, but I am sort of going with the momentum of this.
Yeah, because last time I had a chat with you, you were doing something very different.
Yes, I was actually doing IT services. I was doing
IT services, yeah, and you were
yes.
like, "How
So
do I kill you?"
That's the reason. That's the reason why I got into this, and like I had like some pre-work done. But then I also realized that like IT services is as much as a GTM play, as much as it's a
Nice.
tech play.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build some credibility. Hopefully, this article would have helped me in some sense, I guess, because I've gotten some interesting inbounds.
Yeah.
Let's see where they go.
Like this podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What do you think, like, if somebody wants to sort of build for India, specifically in the GPU state, in the AI stuff, do you see any white spaces, open spaces? I know most of it will be like very deep tech and not something.
Access to NVIDIA hardware.
Yeah, of course.
That seems like the biggest business idea right now.
Yeah, it's not the thesis that Anmol sort of works with, which is more of consumer, for example.
Yeah.
but yeah, what do you think? Like, if somebody is like high agency, what should they do to sort of?
I don't know if you guys read the Bill Gurley post about open source, both with respect to AI and software.
Give a quick summary.
China's gonna win if America doesn't get its shit together on open source models.
Yeah,
China will win if American open source is not good enough.
Yes.
that and also like in general, open source is like probably the most positive sum and lawfully good way to sort of build software. Like, sure, you can always boogeyman by saying, "Hey, I have this closed source model that'll wipe you from the face of the earth," but it does not build a lot of trust.
Shout out Mythos.
Right? And I think for Indian folks who are trying to build, if they still want to build software, I think probably is the best time to like start thinking about import substitution for software as well. Unfortunately, equated Indian software to like say cheaper software, not necessarily high quality, high engineering, like high tech engineering software. And I genuinely feel like the word deep tech has been misused. Deep tech is anything which is done with a lot of craft and a lot of engineering baked into it. It's not just that you're building drones or you're building some robot, right? It has to be like if you build the most high performance software in the world, that is deep tech. Just building like the world's best storage cluster is deep tech. I think some reframing is there that is required. Like I just love what the Standard Intelligence guys did. Like they're a Neolab based in SF. They were building computer use agents and computer use models, and they had to like sort of store all their video data in a storage cluster. They built their own storage cluster because they thought AWS was charging them too much. They built like a petabyte scale storage cluster. Sure, I think the availability of capital in the US is higher for sure for them to like do experiments like this. But I think if you paint or like convince people enough, I think we should also start thinking along those lines. And this directly has implications with respect to the account deficit I was talking about. Like we pay for Slack, we pay for all these like different softwares. These are all USD denominated. Yes, they don't exponentially increase like tokens, but they are also like dollar outflow out of the country. If you're thinking of like say building Atmanirbhar software for India, don't think of it in the lines of like say, oh, Slack is selling it for 299 per month. I'll sell it for 99 per month. Sell it at 99 per month, but like make it so good that like you will not think about Slack, you'll not miss Slack or any other collaboration software or any other software for that matter. Like it has to be genuinely high engineering. And if you can make it open source, even better. There are like open source monetization is not like a lot of people say it is not great, but I genuinely feel like open source now builds trust. In case like say of any security flaws, the community comes together and flags it faster than like say closed source softwares. In the era of like say Mythos and AI generated security vulnerabilities, open source makes more sense. So can you make made from India for the world open source software is something that I'm sort of personally pursuing right now.
Cool, man. I'm pumped. So the website is muesli.works, muesli.works.
Yes.
And Pranav, where can people follow you?
PH equals 7. I tweet at least every day, twice. It's not out of like say compulsion. I do it without knowing. So like I'm most accessible on Twitter. So
All right. Thank you so much, Pranav, for coming onto onto the podcast and giving a new perspective. Actually, yeah, kind of new perspective.
hey,
And
hey, come on, like you can continue perspective.
okay, and yeah, thank you so much. And if you've been watching till now, please hit that like button, subscribe, share this video, comment red T-shirt because
Okay, yeah.
all of us were supposed to be wearing red. All of us who got the memo at least.
I did not get the memo.
That's
But
what all
thank
of
you
us.
guys. Thank you guys for having me. Is interesting. I think writing it as an article and then not talking about it is I think not a great strategy. I think I should talk more about it, and I think more
Yeah.
than talking, I think we should also start doing more. So excited what this transpires into.
All right. On that note, see you again next week. Till then, bye bye.
See you guys.